The story starts with a family burdened by an ancestral curse. This curse dictates that if anyone in the family kisses a person of the opposite gender, they will turn into a dog. This curse affects the present generation, including He-na and her elder sister Hun-na. Because of this curse, He-na is extremely cautious to avoid kissing anyone. One day, He-na was celebrating her anniversary with her boyfriend when he asked her for a kiss. This request confused He-na, because she knew it would bring a curse upon her. So, with a heavy heart, she decided to run away from her boyfriend. A year went by, and He-na had become a high school teacher. One day, she received a message in a group chat, and it turned out to be about her ex-boyfriend, the one she had left a year ago. The message said that he was getting married to someone else. The people in the group chat started teasing He-na about being single and urged her to find a new boyfriend. At first, He-na seemed annoyed by their comments, but she didn't pay much attention because she had developed a crush on a handsome and charming teacher named Lee Bo-goom. Bo-goom was not only adored by the female students but also by He-na herself, thanks to his many wonderful qualities. He-na had a history of being left by guys who couldn't resist kissing. Her friend, Chun Song-ni, wondered why He-na preferred to stay single than kiss someone. He-na then shared the reason that she had seen her uncle turn into a dog after kissing his lover. But things were different with Bo-goom. He-na was thrilled when Bo-goom came up to her and invited her and Song-yi for drinks later that night. She liked Bo-goom so much that she told Song-yi she might be willing to break her no-kissing rule if she dated him. Her attraction to Bo-goom grew stronger when she saw his love for dogs. On the other hand, she became more put off by Jin So-won, another teacher who seemed distant and unfriendly. During their gathering, He-na got another message in her group chat that shocked her. Her ex-boyfriend was now engaged to her best friend, leaving He-na feeling confused and upset. To cope with her emotions, she started drinking alcohol. As the night went on, Song-yi encouraged He-na to confess her feelings to Bo-goom. In a semi-drunken state, He-na imagined confessing and kissing Bo-goom. Without much thinking, she went outside and confessed to Bo-goom, trying to kiss him. But by mistake, she ended up kissing So-won. Realizing her error and fearing the consequences of breaking her family's curse, He-na hurriedly left the scene. She remembered that she had now kissed someone, and when the clock struck midnight, she transformed into a cute dog. In her dog form, He-na went to her sister's workplace and bit her sister's shoe to signal her transformation. There she met Woo-taek, their longtime neighbor who knew about the family's secret curse. Her sister, who never expected this to happen to He-na, took her home to rest. This transformation cycle repeated every day, with He-na becoming human again at 6 in the morning and turning back into a dog at midnight. This would continue for 3 months, after which He-na would be stuck as a dog forever, just like their uncle. The following day, He-na, now back to her human form, let out a scream as she remembered the previous night's events. She felt especially embarrassed because her first kiss had been with So-won, the person she disliked the most. Feeling humiliated, He-na thought about quitting her job as a teacher and avoiding school altogether. However, her older sister, Yuna, advised her against it. Yuna explained that He-na needed to break the curse by kissing the man she had kissed the previous night. If she didn't, He-na would turn into a dog every midnight and eventually stay that way forever after 3 months. With no other choice, He-na reluctantly returned to school, feeling embarrassed and wondering why she had to approach the person she had been avoiding and investigate everything about So-won. As a first step, He-na tried to apologize to So-won for kissing him the night before. So-won responded calmly, saying he had already forgotten about it and didn't mind. However, He-na got upset when she learned that So-won believed she wanted to kiss Bo-goom. She wanted to scold So-won for not reacting when she had tried to kiss him last night. To speed up the process of breaking the curse, He-na pretended to feel guilty and invited So-won to have drinks together as an apology. However, So-won declined He-na's invitation because of her strange behavior, which made He-na consider giving up and avoiding someone like So-won. But when she saw her uncle, now fully transformed into a suffering dog due to illness, He-na reluctantly approached So-won several times and invited him for a drink. She was willing to set aside her pride to get close to him, even though he had initially rejected her invitations. He-na's efforts eventually paid off when So-won unexpectedly accepted her invitation to have a drink. This was part of Yuna's plan to get So-won heavily drunk, so that when He-na transformed into her dog form, she could kiss So-won. It wasn't easy, as So-won usually avoided strong alcohol, but He-na persisted. When So-won briefly stepped away, Na secretly mixed his drink with the strong one. Before she transformed into a dog, she questioned So-won about why he always seemed to dislike her and feel uncomfortable around her. So-won explained that he never meant to come across that way and that it was all a misunderstanding. However, before he could elaborate, the clock struck midnight and Na grew anxious, fearing she would turn into a dog. Nevertheless, before that could happen, Na contacted So-won and asked him to meet her in a secluded place. When So-won arrived, heavily drunk, Na, now in her dog form, approached him, looking adorable. When So-won saw the cute dog in front of him, he immediately picked it up and kissed it. Soon after, Na reverts to her human form. However, it turned out to be just Na's imagination. In reality, when Na in her dog form approached So-won, he got frightened and mistook the adorable dog for a wolf about to attack him. Not long after, Bo-gum arrived and thwarted Na's plan. Fortunately, Yu-na and Woo-taek came to take Na in her dog form away. They'd also sent a message to So-won using Na's phone to avoid suspicion because she left their gathering abruptly. The following day, Na, along with Yu-na and Woo-taek, discussed another plan to enable her to kiss So-won in her dog form, knowing that he was afraid of dogs. Woo-taek came up with an idea that Na should date So-won and kiss him while he's asleep. However, Na refused because she wanted to date Bo-gum. Meanwhile, So-won was still bothered by the events of the previous night and worried that Na might have seen his fear of dogs. At school, So-won bumped into Na again and asked why she had left the gathering abruptly. Na accidentally mentioned that Bo-gum was there, which confused So-won, as he believed Na had left because of him. So-won lied, saying he had called Bo-gum to help Na, who wanted to date him. After hearing So-won's offer, Na asked if they could meet regularly if she wanted him to help set her up with Bo-gum. So-won noticed how happy Na looked when she heard Bo-gum's name, so he agreed to help her just once to get closer to Bo-gum. He'd explained that he and Bo-gum had plans for that night and intended to leave, giving Na the chance to be alone with Bo-gum. Na was excited but mentioned that she couldn't do it because her heart would race uncontrollably if she were alone with Bo-gum. She asked So-won not to go. So-won simply nodded and left Na. However, when the night arrived at the location So-won had mentioned, it turned out that Bo-gum had also invited another teacher named Chia, who seemed very eager to be with So-won. As they were about to leave, Na, trying to use the situation to break her curse, attempted to persuade So-won to drink alcohol again. However, So-won immediately declined because he easily got drunk. Na didn't give up easily. With a pleading expression, she explained her reason for inviting So-won to drink, which to get closer to him so that he could help her matchmake with Bo-gum. When Na kept mentioning Bo-gum's name, So-won's expression turned angry, and he walked away from her. However, he later returned, intending to explain why he had been avoiding Na. But before he could give his reason, he noticed someone carrying a dog, which left Na puzzled by his behavior. Back at home, Na discussed So-won's behavior with Yu-na and Woo-taek. She had always felt that So-won acted strangely without any clear reason. Woo-taek advised Na to remember the times when So-won abruptly left whenever they were together. Na recalled those moments and realized that So-won always left because he saw a dog. Therefore, even though she loved dogs dearly, she had to distance herself from them to break the curse, hoping that So-won would be willing to be with her and help them break the curse. As Na was about to reach school, 3 of her students approached her and reported that 3 students from another school were smoking in front of their school. Being a good teacher, Na scolded the 3 delinquent students right away. However, they tried to harass her instead. Fortunately, So-won suddenly appeared and promptly handled the 3 disrespectful students, putting an end to their inappropriate behavior. He then asked for their names to report them to their school. The 3 students were reluctant to reveal their names, but one of Na's students named Choi-yul, who knew them, stepped in and disclosed their names one by one. This caused the 3 delinquent students to quickly run away. Na, who hadn't expected So-won's help, remained quiet and walked away, thinking that So-won wasn't as cold as she had believed. This made her feel embarrassed, and she started avoiding So-won. Later, while Na was resting in the park and about to doze off, So-won approached her suddenly. Na was surprised and apologized for not thanking him earlier in the morning when he had helped her. She also said sorry for always appearing angry towards him. So-won responded with an apology as well, explaining that he had seemed distant because of certain reasons. Seeing So-won's troubled expression as he struggled to explain himself, Hae-na advised him not to rush into revealing his reasons if he wasn't ready. This made So-won smile, and he mentioned that he would help Hae-na get closer to Bo-gum again. Hae-na was delighted to hear this, and they left together. As night fell and Hae-na prepared for bed, she remembered her conversation with So-won earlier and realized it was the first time she had seen him smile. The scene then shifted to the three troublemaking students who still held a grudge against Hae-na and were plotting revenge. While eating instant noodles at a convenience store, they accidentally saw Choi-yul, who had revealed their names, and they decided to confront Choi-yul. Feeling threatened, Choi-yul asked the cashier to contact the authorities. Shortly after, Hae-na, who was asleep, received a call from the police about one of her students being involved in a fight. She rushed to the police station, but when she arrived, she saw that Choi-yul was unharmed, while one of the delinquent students had a wounded face. This upset the injured student's mother, who demanded accountability from Choi-yul. However, using her experience as a teacher, Hae-na managed to secure Choi-yul's release. She presented evidence found in the delinquent student's pocket, a pack of cigarettes which proved that the student was indeed a troublemaker. This meant that Choi-yul didn't have to take responsibility and could go home. After resolving the issue, Hae-na realized it was almost midnight, indicating that she would transform into a dog soon. With no time to waste, she hurriedly left, not wanting her secret to be discovered by her student Choi-yul. However, Choi-yul chased after her. Not long after, Choi-yul witnessed Hae-na transforming into a dog, which made him faint from disbelief. It was hard for him to accept that his teacher had become a dog. Meanwhile, Yu-na was with Woo-taek somewhere else, deeply in love and unaware of Hae-na's situation. When Choi-yul regained consciousness, now convinced that Hae-na had actually turned into a dog, he didn't know what to do because he didn't know where Hae-na lived. With hesitation, Choi-yul took Hae-na and her belongings to his house. There he took good care of her, trying to feed her and promising to look after her. In her dog form, Hae-na tried to signal Choi-yul to contact her older sister. However, because Yu-na was drunk and unresponsive to Choi-yul's calls, Hae-na had no choice but to stay at Choi-yul's house since she easily got tired in her dog form. When morning came, Hae-na, who had returned to her human form, was shocked to find herself asleep next to Choi-yul. She was worried that she would wake up naked. However, upon seeing Choi-yul sleeping on the floor, Hae-na felt relieved and quickly put on her clothes. However, Choi-yul's bedroom door suddenly swung open by So-won. Hae-na couldn't believe her eyes when she saw So-won entering Choi-yul's room. She quickly tried to rouse Choi-yul. Meanwhile, So-won, who was in disbelief, had peculiar thoughts about Hae-na. When Choi-yul woke up, he innocently referred to So-won as uncle, leaving Hae-na shocked to discover that Choi-yul was So-won's nephew. Following this revelation, So-won began questioning both of them about what had occurred. In the midst of her fear that her secret might be exposed by Choi-yul, Hae-na discreetly signaled to him to keep quiet about her ability to transform into a dog. Thankfully, Choi-yul understood and concealed Hae-na's curse, explaining that she had been heavily intoxicated the previous night after helping him handle the troublesome students from their school at the police station. Upon hearing this explanation, So-won was initially skeptical, because his place was very far from Hae-na's place. However, with numerous reasons and chat conversation evidence, So-won eventually believed them. He even expressed gratitude to Hae-na for assisting his nephew. Afterwards, So-won escorted Hae-na out of the house and asked her to keep their relationship as uncle and nephew, with Choi-yul a secret. Hae-na agreed to So-won's request without asking for any explanation. Little did they know, Chae-ah was secretly watching them from a luxury car. Chae-ah had a huge crush on So-won and often kept tabs on him. At that moment, she saw So-won spending time with Hae-na early in the morning, and it made her visibly jealous, as she felt that her romantic interest was being pursued by Hae-na. Later on, Hae-na met with Yu-na to share everything that had transpired. Yu-na panicked because she thought her younger sister had acted recklessly by letting someone else in on the family curse. Meanwhile, So-won, who was preparing food for Choi-yul, received a request from him to let him keep an adorable puppy. However, So-won turned down the request because he had an intense fear of dogs, no matter how small they were. He would bolt at the mere sight of a dog. Meanwhile, Hae-na, accompanied by Yu-na, faced a continuous scolding for revealing her secret to Choi-yul. This scolding was not without reason. According to Yu-na, Hae-na's chances of breaking the curse would become even more difficult now that Choi-yul knew everything. Yuna had given Hae-na a dog-shaped keychain in the hope that it would help reduce So-won's fear of dogs. As Hae-na examined the keychain given by Yuna, Bo-gum approached her with excitement, admiring the dog-shaped keychain she held. Bo-gum praised the keychain and seemed to want it for himself. From a distance, So-won watched as Hae-na and Bo-gum conversed. His eyes revealed his intense curiosity about their conversation. However, before he could approach them, Chae-ah came up to So-won and asked for a private conversation. She inquired if So-won had a girlfriend, to which he replied that he was currently single. Chae-ah was excited by this news and expressed her desire to get closer to him, but her request was disregarded by So-won. On the other hand, the school principal was caught bringing his pet dog to school, causing great excitement among the teachers who wanted to play with the dog. However, the dog immediately approached Hae-na, as if all dogs were drawn to her. Hae-na, who loved dogs, was thrilled. However, upon seeing So-won's fear, she quickly lied in front of everyone, claiming she had allergies to dogs. Unfortunately, So-won, who had been pretending to be brave around dogs, was asked by the school principal to take care of his dog and feed it. So-won couldn't refuse this request because he feared that if he did, everyone would discover his fear of dogs. Anxious and wary, So-won reluctantly complied with the principal's request, keeping a distance from the dog. As So-won was about to feed the principal's dog, he unknowingly allowed the dog to approach him. Hae-na noticed this and rushed to drive the dog away from So-won. However, in her haste, she accidentally bumped into So-won, causing him to fall. Later, Hae-na met with Choi-yul and requested him not to reveal her secret of turning into a dog. Choi-yul readily agreed to her request and promised not to disclose it. Returning to So-won, who was still anxious while trying to avoid the principal's dog outside, he unexpectedly encountered the dog again, this time brought outside by Bo-gum. For some reason, the dog once more approached So-won, increasing his fear. Fortunately, before the dog could reach So-won, Hae-na successfully diverted the dog's attention. She then helped So-won, who was struggling to concentrate on teaching his students due to his fear of the principal's dog. Hae-na informed So-won that the principal's dog was gone, which allowed So-won to regain his composure and return to his normal self. However, shortly after, Song-yi informed Hae-na that the principal had decided not to take his dog home and that it was now in the teacher's lounge. This prompted Hae-na to rush back, fearing that So-won would be scared again. So-won found himself face to face with the principal's dog, causing him to panic and quickly climb onto a table. Chae-ah and other teachers witnessed the incident with So-won and the principal's dog, leaving So-won feeling bewildered and unsure. Shortly after, Hae-na arrived and with her sweet smile, picked up the dog to keep it away from So-won. This reminded So-won of their first meeting, when Hae-na had just started working as a teacher, and he recalled the sweet smiles he had secretly noticed from her. Later that evening, Bo-gum spotted Hae-na at a bakery from a distance. Instead of approaching her, he contacted So-won and asked him to buy some pastries. This led to another encounter between So-won and Hae-na, where So-won expressed his gratitude to her for always helping him stay away from dogs and keeping his fear a secret from other teachers. During this moment, their closeness grew, and there was a hint of affection in their meaningful eye contact. So-won later met with Bo-gum to deliver the pastries he had requested. While chatting, So-won noticed an old teacup used by Bo-gum and jokingly asked if it was ancient. Bo-gum playfully confirmed that the teacup was indeed very old, surprising So-won. The following day, there was intrigue surrounding Bo-gum's identity, because when he entered a room at the school, it was filled with antique items, including a shawl from the past. Upon seeing the shawl, Bo-gum began crying as he remembered an incident from his past when he witnessed a woman who owned a similar shawl being pursued by royal soldiers. The scene shifted to Hae-na, who was discussing wedding gift options with Song-yi and Bo-gum for one of their fellow teachers. Song-yi, aware of Hae-na's feelings for Bo-gum, suggested that Hae-na and Bo-gum go together to buy the gift. Unexpectedly, So-won immediately interrupted and offered to accompany Hae-na for the purchase. He mentioned that Bo-gum had to check the students' exam papers, and Hae-na seemed fine with So-won's company, a change from her previous attitude. Hae-na enjoyed their time together, despite it just being a trip to the mall to find a gift. During their outing, there was an awkward moment when a clothing store clerk assumed that Hae-na and So-won were a couple and suggested they wear matching outfits. However, their time together was interrupted when Chae-ah suddenly joined them and invited So-won to ride with her to their colleague's wedding. So-won declined Chae-ah's invitation in front of Hae-na, stating that he would go with Bo-gum. But Chea persisted and contacted Bo-gum, requesting to ride with So-won. Bo-gum initially declined, knowing Chea's intentions, but he reluctantly agreed after some persuasion. As they were about to leave, it turned out that Bo-gum and Chea were the ones picking up Chea, which left her frustrated. She immediately went in search of So-won, who was visiting Hae-na. Hae-na looked sweetly at So-won, and an intimate moment occurred when Chea arrived, looking for him. So-won, holding an umbrella, quickly opened it to cover himself and Hae-na. The story then went back to why So-won and Hae-na had decided to attend the wedding together. At the mall, after Chea had left, So-won had invited Hae-na to join him, saying that if she went with Bo-gum, they might be late. Surprisingly, Hae-na accepted So-won's invitation without hesitation. At home, Yuna was puzzled by her sister's choice to go with So-won instead of Bo-gum, the man she had been interested in for a long time. Hae-na even carefully prepared a dress, seemingly wanting to look beautiful in front of So-won. Similarly, So-won was revealed to be inexperienced in driving, but he was determined to learn and memorize the map to avoid getting lost on their way to the wedding place. Choi-yul found So-won's behavior unusual and was confused by his actions. Back in the present, as So-won and Hae-na were on their way to the wedding, Choi-yul called So-won and mentioned, which Hae-na overheard, that So-won was a novice driver who had obtained his driver's license only 3 months ago. Hearing this, Hae-na became anxious and held on to So-won tightly. Choi-yul's prediction proved correct as So-won continuously took the wrong route, causing delays. Despite the delay, So-won managed to safely reach the wedding venue with Hae-na. A brief moment of intimacy occurred as So-won held Hae-na's hand and invited her to run inside since they were running late. While observing the wedding festivities, Hae-na saw her colleague's happiness and began to wonder if someone like her, burdened with a strange curse, could someday get married and live happily ever after. Shortly after, Hae-na was taken by surprise when she saw So-won singing as a gift to the newlyweds. She felt a strange sensation as she watched him sing, unable to take her eyes off him. It was at this moment that Hae-na realized So-won, whom she had thought of as cold, had a romantic side. After his performance during the meal, So-won was approached by Chea, who asked him to accompany her urgently. So-won, feeling uncomfortable but agreeing reluctantly, glanced over at Hae-na, who was happily smiling with Bo-gum and Chea at their table. Hae-na's expression changed upon hearing that So-won would go with Chea. When Bo-gum later invited her to the beachside, Hae-na didn't seem as happy as she had anticipated. While at the beach with Hae-na, Bo-gum asked her to imagine that she was a moon that keeps moving closer and further away from the beach, regardless of her wishes, which she accepted. Confused by this unusual question, Hae-na replied that she had never thought about such a scenario. Shortly after, Hae-na suggested they head back. When Bo-gum saw Hae-na walking ahead of him, he mumbled that she would be pulled away unexpectedly, regardless of her wishes, leaving him deep in thought about their past connection and the mysterious twists of fate. Not long after, Hae-na was back home, feeling annoyed that So-won had abruptly left with Chea. Soon after, she received a message from So-won, inquiring about her well-being and apologizing for his sudden departure. Hae-na felt tempted to respond rudely but refrained from doing so, considering their positions and her own lack of importance. She simply replied that she had reached home. However, Hae-na became confused, imagining So-won being close to Chea. In her state of confusion, Yuna suddenly appeared and unveiled her plan to help break Hae-na's curse by enlisting the assistance of Choi-yul in her dog form to So-won while he slept. Initially reluctant due to the embarrassment of her students knowing about her previous drunken kiss with So-won, Hae-na reluctantly agreed, as there seemed to be no other option. Yuna and Woo-taek then met with Choi-yul to explain the plan. The following day at school, Hae-na approached Choi-yul and asked for his help in breaking the curse, as it appeared to be the only solution. To her surprise, Choi-yul proposed an alternative idea to ensure the success of their plan, which Hae-na should pretend to be in a relationship with his uncle. This suggestion caught Hae-na off guard, as she had never expected someone as unconventional as Choi-yul to support such an idea. However, Hae-na expressed her insecurity about dating So-won and couldn't go through with it. Instead, she asked Choi-yul for help and requested one night to kiss So-won in her dog form. Without hesitation, Choi-yul agreed to her request. As nightfall arrived, Choi-yul tried to persuade So-won to fall asleep quickly so he could assist Hae-na, who was waiting with Yu-na and Woo-taek for the opportunity to kiss So-won while he slept. Once So-won was asleep, Choi-yul carefully placed Hae-na, now transformed into a dog, on So-won's bed. In her dog form, Hae-na couldn't help but gaze at So-won, reminiscing about their time together. She wondered if their closeness had only been driven by her desire to break the curse, and if it would fade away once she returned to her human form. Unexpectedly, Hae-na's heart began to race nervously while she was still in her dog form. Eventually, she kissed So-won. Shortly after, So-won woke up and let out a loud scream upon seeing the dog near him. Hearing So-won's scream, Choi-yul and Yu-na rushed to his room. It turned out that Hae-na hadn't returned to her human form and was still in her dog form. To conceal the situation, Choi-yul instructed Yu-na to take Hae-na away and explain to So-won that the dog he had seen was just a part of his dream. The following day, Hae-na, now back in her human form, questioned Yu-na why she hadn't immediately transformed back. Yu-na seemed puzzled by the question, not knowing the reason. Hae-na, on the other hand, believed that she had already broken the curse. However, at midnight, Hae-na unexpectedly transformed back into a dog, indicating that the curse hadn't been lifted, despite her kiss with So-won. This left both of them baffled. Yu-na suggested that Hae-na should consult their mother, who might have a solution to remove the curse. Hae-na hesitated to inform her mother, fearing her reaction to breaking the family curse. Nevertheless, Yu-na talked to their mother and got an answer. The curse could be broken if someone from their family kissed the same person who had previously kissed them while being conscious and not asleep. This left Hae-na wondering about her next steps since So-won had a phobia of dogs, even cute ones. Nonetheless, Yu-na had another plan, involving Hae-na helping So-won overcome his fear of dogs. This way, So-won would be willing to be kissed by Hae-na in her dog form. Hae-na reluctantly agreed to the plan, which required her to spend more time with So-won. When asked if he would accept help from Hae-na to overcome his fear of dogs through a therapeutic approach involving dogs, So-won eagerly agreed. However, when So-won imagined the therapy involving dogs that Hae-na had mentioned, he immediately fainted at the thought. Nevertheless, when the therapy finally began, it turned out to be less terrifying than So-won had anticipated. Hae-na introduced him to someone else's pet dog. Despite his fear, So-won felt somewhat comfortable because he was close to Hae-na. Not long after, while So-won and Hae-na were chatting in a park, So-won saw a stray dog running toward him. This reminded So-won of his childhood when a dog suddenly approached him and frightened him. However, Hae-na quickly shielded his view with her shirt, creating a romantic moment between the two. After experiencing that romantic moment with Hae-na in the park, So-won couldn't forget it. While taking a shower at his home, he continued to visualize the romantic moment he had shared with Hae-na. Even when he saw the keychain Hae-na had given him, he remembered her encouraging words when he panicked upon seeing a dog. For that reason, So-won, who hadn't had the chance to thank Hae-na, sent her a message of gratitude. However, since the message was sent after midnight, Hae-na couldn't read it immediately because she had turned into a dog. Instead, Yu-na read the message, leaving Hae-na frustrated as she couldn't respond right away to So-won's message. The following day at school, the principal was in a joyous mood because the video club, led by a student named Hunt Jae-hee, had won a school anti-violence video contest organized by the Ministry of Education. This achievement made Jae-hee, a future aspiring actress, the pride of the teachers for bringing honor to the school. Hae-na also felt proud of Jae-hee and her friends. Now, Jae-hee and her friends were conducting a poll in their video about the ideal type for So-won, their teacher. Hae-na and Chea were the strongest contenders in the poll. However, unlike other teachers, So-won noticed something odd about Jae-hee and her friends. At a glance, he saw that one of Jae-hee's friends seemed to be acting as a messenger for Jae-hee and the others. When night fell, Hae-na, who had acted indifferent about the poll conducted by Jae-hee and her friends at school, was actually quite enthusiastic and hoped to win at home. But in reality, she was defeated by Chea, making Hae-na very upset. Even at school, Hae-na seemed quite irritable because she had lost to Chea. However, Hae-na's frustration made So-won smile, as he found Hae-na even cuter and more adorable when she was upset. The story then shifted to Jae-hee and her friends, confirming So-won's suspicions about the strange behavior she had observed yesterday. It turned out that Jae-hee and her friends were secretly bullying one of their own friends named Ji-won. Jae-hee recorded these incidents on her phone, and So-won happened to overhear their conversation as she walked by. When So-won confronted Ji-won about Jae-hee and her friend's actions, Ji-won chose to cover up for them. This only heightened So-won's suspicion that something was amiss, and she asked Chae-ah, who was Jae-hee's guardian, to investigate her concerns. However, Chae-ah, who was feeling proud, didn't bother to thoroughly investigate and simply believed Jae-hee's words without checking her phone. Feeling that this wasn't enough, So-won took the initiative to question both Jae-hee and Ji-won. However, the school principal immediately stopped So-won, stating that So-won wasn't the guardian of Jae-hee and Ji-won. This left So-won in deep thought until Bo-gum approached him and inquired about the situation. Bo-gum advised So-won not to be too aggressive in dealing with the matter, especially since it involved his personal issues. According to Bo-gum, this approach wouldn't solve the problem in today's era. Meanwhile, when Hae-na finished her classes, she saw Ji-won borrowing the school storage room key from a teacher. This left Hae-na puzzled, so she asked Jae-hee about it, assuming that Ji-won was a friend of hers. However, Jae-hee lied again, claiming she didn't know what Ji-won was up to. That night, So-won, who happened to still be at school, received a call from Hae-na about this matter, further convincing So-won that Ji-won was a victim of Jae-hee and her friend's bullying. So-won and Hae-na immediately went to the school storage room and found Ji-won frightened inside. Eventually, Ji-won, who initially refused to speak about Jae-hee and her friend's actions, disclosed everything she had been experiencing to So-won and Hae-na. She revealed that she had been subjected to bullying by Jae-hee and her friends, starting from a minor incident when Jae-hee, as an aspiring actress, couldn't handle negative comments on the videos Ji-won uploaded, which praised Ji-won's acting over hers. Knowing all of this, the next day, So-won and Hae-na asked all the teachers and the principal to hold a meeting regarding the bullying carried out by Jae-hee and her friends. However, the principal asked So-won to cover it up, fearing that the school's reputation would suffer, especially since there was no strong evidence to support Ji-won's claims. Upon hearing the principal's decision, So-won's expression turned serious as she emphasized that reputation was not as important as Ji-won's suffering. Afterward, So-won appeared contemplative, because he couldn't do anything without strong evidence. Hae-na then approached, asking So-won why he was so passionate about Ji-won's issue. So-won explained that back when he was in school, he had also been a victim of bullying like Ji-won, and had always hoped for someone to help him. Hearing this, Hae-na understood why So-won was so passionate about the matter. She offered to give So-won some privacy to cry, but So-won asked her not to leave and instead leaned in to cry in front of Hae-na. Seeing So-won in that state, Hae-na sought her older sister's help to find Jae-hee's phone when they returned home. The following day, Hae-na had some video recordings that she found on Jae-hee's phone. She wanted to show these videos to the school principal as proof that Jae-hee and her friends were bullying Ji-won. This made it difficult for the principal to continue protecting Jae-hee and her friends. With this new evidence, Jae-hee couldn't deny what she did anymore and had to face the consequences. Her talent agency suspended her contract. Instead of feeling sorry for what she did to Ji-won, Jae-hee got angry and decided to make it look like So-won framed her. She asked a friend to record her meeting with So-won, where she would act like the victim. Hae-na overheard this plan and asked her older sister to help figure out what Jae-hee was up to. To find out what was going on, Hae-na turned into her dog form and secretly went to Jae-hee's friends who were waiting for her instructions. Hae-na listened to Jae-hee and her friend's plan, which involved framing So-won, and she got really mad. She almost gave herself away with her reactions. Yoona also overheard the plan and quickly contacted Choi-yul to tell So-won about it. But So-won was already on her way to meet Jae-hee. When they met, Jae-hee, who was good at acting, pretended to cry in front of So-won. So-won then tried to comfort her, but Jae-hee's friends were recording the whole thing. Luckily, Hae-na transformed into her dog form and barked loudly when she saw So-won, causing Jae-hee to make a mistake, and her friends ran away. Then, Choi-yul arrived and confronted Jae-hee's friends to get back the camera they had. At the same time, Jae-hee, holding a grudge against Hae-na in her dog form, kept chasing her. But unexpectedly, Bo-gum showed up out of nowhere, jumping down from above. Bo-gum, who was usually nice, now acted differently and scared Jae-hee with his unusual behavior. While all this was happening, So-won, who had just found out about Jae-hee's trap, asked Choi-yul why a dog was helping her. To keep Hae-na's identity secret, Choi-yul fibbed and said the dog belonged to a fellow student and was trained, and they called it V-na. The next day, thanks to Hae-na and others, they sorted out the problem with Jae-hee. Although Jae-hee chose to leave school suddenly, Seemingly afraid of Bo-gum, her friends remained behind and had to clean the library as a daily punishment. Some of Jae-hee's friends, unhappy with this, planned to get help from their influential parents. But Jae-na overheard their plans and used her parents, who were school owners, to intimidate Jae-hee's friends into submission. Until everything was sorted out, Hae-na was walking when Jae approached her to talk about the upcoming school field trip. Hae-na got worried because she turns into a dog at midnight, making the trip very challenging. So she ran away. She then asked Choi-yul for help to break the curse by getting So-won to kiss her before the field trip. Choi-yul understood Hae-na's problem and agreed to help. He convinced So-won to let him take care of V-na at his place for a few days. So-won hesitated at first, but agreed because V-na had helped her. On the first night of their plan, Choi-yul fell asleep and messed things up. Hae-na almost got caught by So-won when morning came. Luckily, So-won thought Hae-na was Choi-yul because she was wearing his sweater. Hae-na was still worried about the field trip, but got a message from So-won asking to meet before school. Hae-na used the chance to ask about So-won's usual bedtime and encouraged her to keep the door unlocked and befriend V-na. So-won got confused about Hae-na mentioning V-na living at her place and asked more questions. Hae-na tried to deflect by saying she heard it from Choi-yul. Eventually, So-won said nice things about V-na, and Hae-na blushed and felt flattered by So-won's praise for her dog form. Meanwhile, at school, there was a lot of talk about a new student named Min-jia, who had an amazing talent for predicting things about people. And Jia had a connection with So-won from their past. On the other hand, Hae-na and Choi-yul were trying to carry out their plan before the school field trip. Hae-na asked Choi-yul not to struggle to wake up so their mission could work. However, when night came, Choi-yul fell asleep again, so Hae-na decided to do it herself. She went to So-won without Choi-yul's help, who was busy watching TV. At first, So-won was scared when she saw the dog, but she remembered Hae-na's advice about befriending dogs, so she gathered the courage to touch Hae-na in her dog form. Just as So-won's hand was about to touch Hae-na, the door suddenly opened and Bo-gum had unexpectedly arrived to stay overnight. This caused Hae-na's plan to fail once again. Meanwhile, Yuna was waiting outside to take Hae-na away, and Bo-gum saw this. He asked Yuna about taking V-na with her. Luckily, Yuna made an excuse, saying she was a friend of Choi-yul. Bo-gum seemed to know something but didn't reveal his intentions. He advised Yuna to enjoy her time with V-na while it lasted, and Yuna didn't pay much attention to his mysterious words. The next day, Hae-na had no choice but to go on the school field trip while still cursed, which could turn her into a dog. As she packed her things, Yuna, who remembered Bo-gum's words, decided not to tell Hae-na. When Hae-na and the others reached the hotel where they were staying, she quickly asked the hotel staff about available rooms. Unfortunately, all the rooms were already taken, leaving Hae-na worried about what would happen if she turned into a dog later. However, Choi-yul had a plan and had brought a doghouse for Hae-na to use when she transformed, and Hae-na thanked Choi-yul for being so thoughtful. That night, Hae-na shared a room with Song-yi and Chae-ah. She kept her eyes wide open to stay awake until she transformed into a dog at midnight. As the clock neared midnight, Hae-na quietly tried to leave the room and go to the doghouse. But So-won noticed her and tried to follow her as she left, almost seeing Hae-na in the middle of her transformation. Thankfully, So-won was a bit late. By morning, Hae-na, who had turned back into a human, looked very tired from staying up all night and sleeping outside. She struggled to stay awake while keeping an eye on her students. So-won noticed Hae-na's exhaustion and kindly shielded her from the morning sun. Later on, Jia noticed a boat and invited Hae-na, So-won, and Bo-gum to ride it in pairs. So-won wanted to be with Hae-na, but Bo-gum took the lead and prevented So-won from being on the same boat as Hae-na. So-won felt even more jealous when she saw Hae-na holding Bo-gum's hand because they were scared of a worm. At night, while Hae-na was checking her students' rooms, she accidentally ran into Jia. Jia noticed Hae-na and asked about her connection with a dog. Hae-na was surprised and quickly changed the subject by asking where Jia's roommates were. Jia said her roommates had gone to the night market. Hae-na then asked So-won to help find her 3 female students who were wandering around the night market. But because the night market was so big, So-won and Hae-na had to split up to look for the students. By midnight, Hae-na turned back into a dog. While So-won found her 3 students and brought them back to the hotel, she kept searching for Hae-na, who hadn't returned. When So-won finally found Hae-na in her dog form, an elderly woman unexpectedly took her away, and Hae-na barked for help. Unfortunately, So-won didn't understand what was happening. Not long after, Hae-na found herself at the elderly woman's house, feeling helpless in her situation. When she saw the somewhat confused elderly woman getting ready to harm her, Hae-na managed to escape. While running away, she fell into a deep ditch and hurt her leg, leaving her unable to move. Unexpectedly, Choi-yul came to her rescue and tried to help Hae-na. He couldn't get her out of the deep ditch but gave her some clothes and asked nearby residents for assistance. By 6 in the morning, Hae-na had turned back into a human, but she was still stuck in the ditch. So-won arrived and helped Hae-na get out, which led to a brief moment of closeness when Hae-na's injured leg required So-won to carry her to the roadside. As they reached the road, Bo-geum watched from a distance. Bo-geum once again mentioned the idea of So-won and Hae-na getting closer before walking away. He overheard someone seemingly call him, and it turned out to be Jia. Seeing Jia reminded Bo-geum of a woman from his past who looked like Jia, but Jia didn't recognize him and could only make guesses based on her fortune-telling. Back in Hae-na's room with Song-yi, one of the students who caused trouble the night before approached Hae-na to apologize and asked for help because they left their wallets behind. Hae-na turned to So-won once again for assistance in getting the wallets back. This situation brought them closer, and it seemed like they were becoming more comfortable with their feelings for each other. However, a potential issue emerged as a man who knew about Hae-na's family curse and used to date So-won's sister had plans to reveal Hae-na's secret to So-won. After Yuna's ex-boyfriend, Sung-soo, saw Hae-na with So-won, he suddenly came up with a mean plan to share Hae-na's family curse of turning into a dog on social media. This unintentionally caught the attention of a content-hungry YouTuber named Eunwon. Eunwon carefully examined the video Sung-soo uploaded and realized that the person in the video was So-won, which made him excited because he had always wanted to expose So-won, who had been a bully during their school days. To find out more, Eunwon sent an email to Sung-soo, pretending to be a journalist interested in the video and Sung-soo's social media posts, while in reality, he had malicious intentions. Meanwhile, So-won was feeling happy because he remembered Hae-na's words about no longer having feelings for Bo-geum, as if they were starting to develop feelings for each other. This became evident when they bumped into each other at school and both seemed awkward. As for Hae-na, now that she had realized her feelings for So-won, she decided to be honest about her secret by attempting to visit him at his house. However, when Hae-na saw So-won talking to Eunwon, who already knew about So-won's fear of dogs, she eavesdropped and forgot that it was almost midnight. She had to find a quiet place to transform, but Eunwon briefly noticed and became curious because Hae-na left her clothes behind. The next day, when Hae-na had turned back into a human, a problem arose. Her mother Mi-soon had returned home, so Hae-na and Yuna tried to hide the fact that Hae-na had broken the family curse by lying to their mother. However, Mi-soon, who knew her children well, patiently waited until midnight. Mi-soon was shocked to see her youngest daughter, who had been warned not to break the family curse, turn into a dog. She realized that only Hae-na's boyfriend could lift the curse. Mi-soon told Hae-na to introduce her boyfriend as soon as possible to remove the curse. Yuna thought it was impossible since So-won, who had kissed Hae-na, wasn't really her boyfriend. So she asked Choi-yul to help pretend to be Hae-na's boyfriend and calm Mi-soon down. At first, the plan worked, but eventually, Mi-soon realized that Choi-yul wasn't Hae-na's boyfriend. Hae-na felt embarrassed for involving Choi-yul in her problems, but apologized to him. Choi-yul, however, laughed and was happy to pretend to be her boyfriend. Choi-yul invited Hae-na to go somewhere because it was So-won's birthday. Hae-na was excited when she found out. When Hae-na gave him a gift, So-won was delighted because, for the first time on his birthday, someone other than himself and Choi-yul cared. So-won appeared happy because he could now have fun with Hae-na. While Choi-yul watched So-won and Hae-na enjoying themselves, he also felt happy. Despite feeling jealous due to his growing feelings for Hae-na, Choi-yul was willing to put his feelings aside because he wanted to see Hae-na and So-won happy together. In fact, Choi-yul discreetly left to give them some alone time. The scene then shifts to Eunwon, who is holding a name tag that belongs to Hae-na, which he found on her clothes from when she transformed into a dog the previous night. Eunwon, now even more curious, continues to gather information about Hae-na and eventually discovers her family background. Meanwhile, Hae-na, who was with So-won, was enjoying the evening while sharing a strong drink. She tried to tell So-won about her cursed secret but hesitated, fearing that he might leave her. Her hesitation stopped her from confessing her secret, and she continued to drink until she got drunk and fell asleep on So-won's shoulder, making him happy. The next day, Eun-won, who had gathered information about Hae-na's family, visited Mi-soon with a hidden camera in his bag. He wanted to learn more about Hae-na, but Mi-soon cleverly avoided giving him any useful information, sensing something suspicious about his behavior. Unbeknownst to them, Eun-won had another plan. He instructed his friend to visit Yoo-na under the pretense of buying dog food, but with the real intention of placing a camera there. On the other hand, Jia started having strange dreams about the past. She felt the need to uncover these memories and went to Bo-gun's secret place in school, with the help of Choi Yul. However, before she could enter, Bo-gun arrived and prevented Jia from gaining access. Later after school, Eun-won and his friend were waiting at the school gate, ready to question the students about Hae-na. This prompted So-won to take action and visit Eun-won to warn him against looking for Hae-na for any reason, as he believed Eun-won had ill intentions towards her. Meanwhile, Hae-na was torn between confessing her secret to So-won or keeping it hidden. She thought about how happy she always felt when she was with him. Suddenly, she spotted So-won standing across the street, smiling and waving at her. Seeing this, Hae-na's heart raced, and she realized she could no longer hide her feelings from So-won. So-won, upon noticing someone approaching Hae-na, hurried over, thinking it might be a potential threat. However, it turned out to be Hae-na's own father, leading to embarrassment and a quick apology from So-won for the misunderstanding. Hae-na's father had come to offer his support and encourage his daughter to follow her heart, free from the burden of their current curse. Furthermore, Hae-na's father, who witnessed So-won showing genuine care for his daughter, believed that So-won would eventually accept Hae-na for who she is. This made Hae-na feel relieved. However, when she received a picture message from Eun-won showing her clothes, she panicked while chatting with So-won. In fear, Hae-na then informed her sister Yoo-na about the situation. Yoo-na, seeing Hae-na so frightened, tried to reassure her that nothing bad would happen. Yoo-na and Woo-taek then went to the location provided by Eun-won to find out his true intentions. When they arrived, Eun-won immediately revealed that he was demanding money from Hae-na to keep her secret from So-won and others. At first, Hae-na refused this demand, but when Eun-won played a recording of Yoo-na discussing her secret, Hae-na could only remain silent and asked Eun-won for some time to prepare the money he wanted. Afterward, Hae-na and Yoo-na promptly reported Eun-won's threat to their mother. Mi-soon, knowing that all of this was orchestrated by Sung-soo, Yoo-na's ex-boyfriend, encouraged her two daughters not to be afraid and to stay strong, assuring them that she would try to resolve the issue as soon as possible. However, Hae-na couldn't find peace of mind. She continued to be preoccupied and unable to attend school, which worried So-won because he was concerned about Hae-na, who had suddenly skipped her teaching duties. Despite being busy with his own teaching responsibilities, So-won went to see Hae-na with some food, showing his concern. Meanwhile, Sung-soo was at a place gambling on slot machines. He was taken aback when Mi-soon and Hae-na's father showed up with weapons. Seeing this, Sung-soo became frightened and threatened to report Mi-soon to the police. However, Woo-taek, who also noticed Sung-soo gambling, threatened him in return, and Sung-soo had no choice but to comply with Mi-soon. After obtaining Eun-won's address, Mi-soon and the others hurried to the location. Eun-won was currently live streaming and threatening to reveal Hae-na's secret. Meanwhile, So-won, who was watching Eun-won's live stream, became extremely upset and rushed to confront him. When they met, So-won immediately confronted Eun-won, and a chase ensued, leading them into a small alley. It turned out that Eun-won had planned to show So-won a dog. When So-won saw the dog brought by Eun-won's friend, it triggered his past trauma and fear of dogs. Taking advantage of So-won's fear, Eun-won incapacitated So-won until he lost consciousness. Meanwhile, Mi-soon and the others, upon arriving at Eun-won's location, discovered that Eun-won had been gathering information about Hae-na and her family for a long time. Mi-soon proceeded to wreak havoc at Eun-won's place and then rushed to her car to have Sung-soo contact Eun-won to inform him that all of his YouTube equipment had been destroyed. However, Eun-won was not out of tricks. He contacted Hae-na and asked her to come to a certain location, showing her that So-won was unconscious. Without thinking, Hae-na rushed to the location alone. Not long after, Hae-na is waiting in front of a camera set up by Eun-won. With the clock about to strike midnight, the time when Hae-na usually transforms into a dog. However, just before that happens, So-won arrives filled with anger and confronts Eun-won. So-won unexpectedly witnesses Hae-na about to change and, in a moment of passion, kisses her in her dog form. This kiss breaks Hae-na's curse, and they continue their embrace. The scene then briefly flashes back to the past, revealing that Bo-gum was the one who cursed Hae-na's family, although Hae-na's past mistake has not been shown. Meanwhile, Eun-won, realizing his anger, grabs a stick to retaliate against So-won. However, unexpectedly, Bo-gum arrives and instructs Eun-won to stop. Eun-won, thinking that Bo-gum is a friend of So-won, tries to attack him with the stick he has. However, the stick is knocked away, leaving Eun-won frightened, and with one swift movement, he is sent flying. After that, Bo-gum, using his powers, immediately erases Eun-won's memory of Hae-na's secret that he had discovered. This leaves Eun-won confused, and he immediately screams for his mother. While Bo-gum walks away, he recalls his past, and we eventually learn that Bo-gum is a mountain spirit worshipped by the locals. In the present, So-won and Hae-na, now officially a couple after being honest about their feelings, continue their intimate moment with a kiss. The following day, Hae-na, who had gone through tough times, now finds happiness. She has finally been freed from the curse, and more importantly, she is now in a relationship with So-won. They are shown to be very affectionate, as if the world belongs to just the two of them. The scene then shifts to Bo-gum, where it is revealed that the school principal is actually subordinate to Bo-gum. The principal asks Bo-gum to return to the mountain, claiming that interfering with human affairs violates the rules. Bo-gum responds with a serious expression, stating that he won't stop until his goal is achieved. His goal is to seek revenge against those who have caused him suffering. It's unclear what Bo-gum's true intentions and goals are. Returning to Hae-na, she is seen continuing her intimacy with So-won before heading to school. They agree not to display their affection at school because the school principal has issued a rule prohibiting affectionate displays between teachers. Other schools have received warnings from the Ministry of Education for such displays. Hae-na tries her best to restrain her affection, even though it's quite challenging for her. In a quiet moment, So-won secretly passes a note to Hae-na. One student accidentally sees it and can't believe that So-won, the most popular teacher, is doing this for Hae-na. The student unintentionally watches as So-won carefully fixes Hae-na's hair. Feeling confident about what she has witnessed, she taunts Hae-na during class, making Hae-na nervous about their relationship being discovered. Unexpectedly, Hae-na meets So-won secretly once again. Jae-da, who is clearly jealous, notices this and immediately reports it to the school principal. However, the principal doesn't believe Jae-da's words. Later, when Hae-na and So-won find the sports building empty, they decide to share a kiss. Suddenly, they are startled when other students enter the room. They quickly hide behind a curtain, and this is once again witnessed by the same female student who had seen them before. On the other hand, Ji-ah, while alone, notices a woman who resembles her entering Bo-gum's secret room. Curious, Ji-ah follows her inside. There, Ji-ah is stunned to see a scarf with memories from the past. When she opens a curtain, she faints upon seeing a painting of a woman who looks remarkably like her. Unbeknownst to Ji-ah, Bo-gum had been watching her and immediately carries Ji-ah to the infirmary. Meanwhile, during the night, Yuna, who is with Hae-na, asks if Hae-na has noticed anything unusual after being freed from the curse. Yuna admits that lately, she's been having an overwhelming desire to kiss someone or something, to the point where even Woo-taek's lips seem irresistibly tempting to her. Hearing this, Hae-na is instantly surprised, realizing that her older sister seems to have developed feelings for Woo-taek. Despite this revelation, Hae-na, who has plans with So-won, decides to go on a date to So-won's house. While there, Hae-na experiences exactly what Yuna had described: an intense desire to kiss So-won, especially his lips. However, just as they are about to share a kiss, they are suddenly interrupted by the unexpected arrival of Bo-gum and Choi-yul. Hae-na quickly hides in a closet, patiently waiting for Bo-gum and Choi-yul to fall asleep. Meanwhile, So-won, determined not to arouse suspicion, tries to keep Bo-gum and Choi-yul company, although deep down, he is concerned about Hae-na hiding in the closet. After waiting for quite some time, they eventually fall asleep. So-won hastily joins Hae-na in the closet, and they continue the intimacy that had been briefly interrupted earlier. However, it turns out that Bo-gum had only pretended to be asleep because he had known from the beginning that Hae-na was hiding in the closet. The next day at school, Bo-gum is suddenly approached by Ji-ah, who asks if he was the one who took her to the infirmary. She also inquires about the secrets that Bo-gum is hiding. Bo-gum remains silent and instead suggests that Jia, known for her fortune-telling abilities, try to read him. After selecting 3 random cards chosen by Bo-gum, Jia explains that Bo-gum is a valuable person unknown to anyone. She also reveals that the second card indicates that Bo-gum always smiles at everyone but cries inside his heart. The third card suggests that Bo-gum misses someone who has passed away. Jia, trying fortune-telling for the first time, is surprised, but Bo-gum leaves without saying a word. Outside, Bo-gum is seen crying while reminiscing about his past, and a woman who resembles Jia kisses him. Later that night, Bo-gum is seen holding the teddy bear keychain that Hae-na gave to So-won. Shortly after, So-won arrives at his location, and he is met by Bo-gum, who brandishes a sword, leaving So-won baffled and confused. The story then delves into Bo-gum's past, revealing how deeply affected he was when he witnessed a woman who looked like Jia being fatally impaled by a sword. This traumatic experience left Bo-gum devastated and nursing a deep-seated grudge against the person responsible. Returning to the present, Bo-gum, with a serious expression, holds a sword to So-won and mentions that a sword that has tasted blood will crave it again, just like its owner. It turns out that the person who committed the murder of Jia in the past was So-won in his past life. So-won, not understanding the gravity of the situation, initially interprets Bo-gum's actions as playful. However, he soon realizes that the sword Bo-gum is wielding is real and very sharp. Confused by the situation, So-won leaves after taking the dog keychain that Bo-gum had given him. After So-won's departure, the father of the school principal appears and questions Bo-gum about the necessity of seeking revenge against So-won. He reminds Bo-gum that he is a mountain spirit, not an avenger. Bo-gum, with a serious expression, states that he is no longer a mountain spirit and is determined to continue seeking revenge against those who have caused him suffering. The following day, So-won takes Hae-na out for a day together. However, Hae-na starts to notice something unusual happening. Dogs, which used to be friendly and approachable, now seem afraid and run away when they see her. Shortly after, Hae-na falls ill with the flu, and she's confined to her bed, unable to go on their planned date. So-won lovingly takes care of Hae-na, staying by her side and showering her with sweet gestures, which makes her incredibly happy. Later, the school arranges a field trip to a museum, and despite still not feeling well, Hae-na decides to attend. She seizes every opportunity to steal moments alone with So-won. Jia observes this and realizes that the bond between So-won and Hae-na now resembles something she had witnessed in the past. The story then takes a trip back in time, revealing that So-won was a noble royal warrior while Hae-na served Jia as a commoner. Surprisingly, Jia believed that Hae-na was her friend. During that era, So-won and Hae-na's paths crossed when So-won was chasing a criminal. Despite their differing social statuses, they fell in love and secretly nurtured their romantic relationship. An unexpected incident disrupted their lives. So-won received shocking news from his superior that Jia's husband was accused of betrayal, putting Jia, who was pregnant and innocent, in grave danger. So-won couldn't bear to see her suffer and decided to secretly help Jia and Hae-na escape from the royal forces who were after them. However, Jia's pregnancy made it difficult for her to flee, so So-won gave them instructions and hoped they could get away. In a desperate attempt to divert the royal forces' attention, Hae-na tried to buy some time for Jia to escape, but tragically, Jia fell into a ravine and lost consciousness. Hae-na was captured by the royal forces, leaving So-won feeling helpless. He faced the entire royal army alone to protect Jia and Hae-na, while he instructed Hae-na to search for Jia. Miraculously, Jia was rescued by Bo-gum, the mountain spirit, and taken to a house on top of the mountain alongside Hae-na. Bo-gum, with the help of the school principal, a fox spirit, provided food for them. Although Jia had lost her will to live due to the loss of her unborn child, Bo-gum had a unique idea to lift her spirits. He suggested giving Jia a puppy, believing it was a reincarnation of her lost baby. This heartwarming gesture gradually brought back Jia's hope, and she felt thankful to Bo-gum for his support. Bo-gum always showed a special affection for Jia, as she was a human who understood the depths of loneliness. Their frequent interactions nurtured feelings between them, something new for Bo-gum. Jia's cheerful antics and companionship eased Bo-gum's loneliness, and he promised to take her to the sea for healing. However, an unexpected twist occurred when the royal forces, who shouldn't have known Jia's whereabouts, managed to locate her. Realizing the imminent danger, Bogum urged Jia to flee while he confronted the royal forces. He didn't want his identity as a mountain spirit to be exposed, so he initially held back his power. But when he saw Jia was in danger, he had no choice but to unleash his true strength to defeat the royal forces and protect Jia. Bogum witnessed a tense moment between So-won and Jia as So-won held a sword, ready to strike. Just as Bogum was about to intervene, the royal forces attacked him. In the midst of this chaos, Bogum saw Jia tragically falling with a sword piercing her. This heart-wrenching scene showing the deep grudge Bogum holds against So-won for the tragic past events. Returning to the present, Bogum is seen at Yuna's workplace. Using his supernatural powers, he performs an action involving a dog, which is the reincarnation of Hae-na's uncle. This mysterious act hints at Bogum's continued involvement in the lives of those connected to the past events. In the morning, the condition of Hae-na's uncle takes a critical turn, and Woo-taek, who is a veterinarian, informs them that there's nothing more they can do for him. Hae-na and her family were very sad about what was happening to her uncle. At the same time, Jia went to see Bogum and told him that she had found out he was a mountain spirit, and they had a connection from their past lives. Bogum just smiled and told Jia to go home because everything from the past didn't matter anymore. But Jia insisted on staying because she could feel that Bogum was in pain. She offered to help him remember their past together, but Bogum just smiled again and walked away, leaving Jia behind. Meanwhile, back at Hae-na's house, they found out that her uncle's life was in danger, so they brought him home. To their surprise, her uncle, who had turned into a dog, suddenly turned back into a human, and his illness was gone. Hae-na and her sister Yuna thought this was very strange, so their parents told them to investigate by reading the writings left by their ancestors. Hae-na made a surprising discovery when she found a letter left behind by her ancestors. She was eager to talk to her mother about it, but on her way, she unexpectedly met Bogum. He claimed that he had cursed Hae-na's family in her past life. At first, Hae-na thought he was joking, but she was shocked when he used his powers to turn Yuna into a dog. This made Hae-na believe what Bogum had said. Confused, Hae-na asked Bogum about his true identity. He told her she had to figure it out herself. He dropped a hint that he had known Hae-na and So-won for a long time. This intrigued Hae-na, so she started looking through old photos and found a childhood picture of Bogum. Realizing all this, Hae-na went to So-won to explain everything, leaving So-won confused about the situation. Feeling puzzled, So-won approached Bogum and asked who he really was. But Bogum just smiled and said So-won would find out soon enough. Shortly after that, Hae-na got a call from her mother, telling her that her uncle had turned back into a dog. Upon hearing this, Hae-na rushed to confront Bogum and demanded to know why he had been so cruel to her family. Bogum just smiled and showed her a memory from her past when she had pleaded for mercy because she was pregnant. Back then, Bogum had spared Hae-na but placed a curse on her baby and all future generations, making them turn into dogs if they kissed or were kissed. He did this to make sure Hae-na's descendants remembered her sin. Bogum then told Hae-na that if she wanted to lift the curse, she had to do something difficult, which to make So-won stop loving her, just like before they met. Hae-na stayed quiet because she cared deeply for So-won, and this task seemed almost impossible. But Bogum gave her until the next day to decide. So-won, unable to find Hae-na, returned to confront Bogum, furious about what he had done to her. However, Bogum acted like it was no big deal. This made So-won even angrier, and he tried to attack Bogum with a sword, but he couldn't move. Bogum then revealed his plan to erase the beautiful memories between So-won and Hae-na. In response, So-won said that even if his memories of Hae-na were erased, he was sure he could remember them and fall in love with her all over again. Bogum smiled, seemingly challenged by So-won's words. After Bogum's threat, So-won felt anxious, but he was relieved when Hae-na reached out to him and invited him to the beach. So-won believed that spending time with Hae-na was more important than anything else. They went to the beach and created beautiful memories together, hoping that even if Bogum erased So-won's memories, he would still remember these cherished moments. Hae-na was very happy to have quality time with So-won. The story then goes back to the past, where So-won tirelessly pursued Hae-na's love despite their different backgrounds. Hae-na, who was initially hesitant because of their different backgrounds, came to believe that So-won was a genuinely sincere man. Finally, it was revealed that the sin committed by Hae-na and So-won, which fueled Bo-gum's deep grudge against them. At that time, to save So-won from being executed for helping Ji-ah escape, Hae-na revealed Ji-ah's hiding place on the mountain to the royal forces, leading them to Ji-ah, who was with Bo-gum. Meanwhile, So-won, who was in prison, decided to follow orders and execute Ji-ah when he learned that Hae-na was pregnant. Until the unfortunate incident that made Bo-gum resent So-won and Hae-na occurred, Bo-gum believed that Ji-ah's death was their fault. Then, the story goes back to the present, where So-won and Hae-na met at school. So-won noticed that Hae-na seemed distant, and when he asked about their promises from the previous day, she said they hadn't made any promises and left abruptly. Realizing that Bo-gum had done something, So-won angrily confronted him about his actions towards Hae-na. Hae-na now seemed indifferent and didn't remember their relationship. Initially, Bo-gum planned to erase all of So-won's memories of the moments he shared with Hae-na. But when So-won expressed confidence that he could remember those beautiful memories and fall in love again, Bo-gum changed his mind and decided to erase all of Hae-na's memories when she was with So-won. He did this so So-won would feel the loss as he did. So-won tried to show affection to Hae-na by giving her favorite cake, hoping she would remember. However, Hae-na acted distant and gave the cake to Song-gi. Despite being rejected or ignored, So-won kept trying to make Hae-na remember. Not long after, Bo-gum arrived and invited Hae-na to go home with him, causing Hae-na to leave So-won, thinking Bo-gum was the man she loved. At home, Hae-na was puzzled when she saw a calendar with dates and notes about couple trips with her boyfriend. She was confused because she didn't think she had a boyfriend. Back at So-won's home, he realized that it wasn't just Hae-na whose memories of their time together were erased. Everyone who knew about his relationship with Hae-na had also forgotten, including his cousin. Choi-yul couldn't remember anything about So-won being involved with Hae-na. This made So-won feel like he had to work even harder to help Hae-na remember. At school, So-won had a small chance when Hae-na was about to fall, and he quickly saved her. This made all the students cheer and suggest that So-won and Hae-na should date. So-won thought his plan was going well and tried again to get Hae-na's attention by giving her the cake she liked. But Bo-gum returned and asked Hae-na to talk privately. Seeing this, So-won felt jealous and took Hae-na to the park, where he confessed his deep feelings for her. However, Hae-na rejected So-won's confession, saying she liked someone else, which left So-won feeling disappointed and heartbroken that the woman he loved liked another man. While he was lost in thought, Hae-na suddenly appeared with a bandage to treat the cut on So-won's hand, which he had gotten from glass shards earlier. Even though Hae-na did it out of guilt, it strengthened So-won's determination to help her remember him. Meanwhile, as Hae-na was taking care of Bo-gum, he unexpectedly asked her out on a date. Hae-na wondered why she didn't feel excited about being asked out by the man she liked. Instead, she felt indifferent. On the other hand, So-won, thinking about how to trigger Hae-na's memories, was approached by Choi-yul, who asked if So-won and Hae-na were in a relationship because Ji-ah had mentioned it. Surprised that someone still remembered his relationship with Hae-na, So-won met Ji-ah the next day to ask her about it. However, Ji-ah only replied that maybe Bo-gum hadn't erased her memories of it. Confused by everything that had happened, Ji-ah decided to confront Bo-gum and ask him why he had erased Hae-na's memories. But once again, Bo-gum didn't give Ji-ah any answers. Ji-ah assumed that Bo-gum did it because he hated Hae-na and So-won the most, as they were the ones responsible for his suffering. She went on to ask if Hae-na and So-won were connected to her death in the past. Bo-gum simply told Ji-ah to stay out of his business, leaving her curious and determined to find answers on her own. To uncover the truth, Ji-ah knew that the school's principal was Bo-gum's subordinate, so she approached him with questions. However, the principal didn't respond to Ji-ah's inquiries. Recognizing that the principal was a fox spirit who enjoyed games, Ji-ah challenged him to a game. She proposed that if she won, the principal had to reveal where she had been killed in the past. After playing the game, Ji-ah managed to defeat the principal, and he reluctantly revealed the location she had asked about. Meanwhile, while Hae-na and Song-gi were talking about Hae-na's plan to go to the movies with Bo-gum that night, So-won overheard and secretly went to the cinema without Hae-na knowing. He approached Bo-gum and warned him not to get too close to Hae-na. After the movie, when Hae-na saw So-won and was about to greet him, Bo-gum immediately took her away, leaving So-won feeling jealous as he watched them walk away hand in hand. The next day at school, Hae-na approached So-won to apologize for not saying goodbye the previous night. She also asked if he had enjoyed the movie. So-won replied that he didn't enjoy it because the woman who was supposed to sit next to him was instead sitting in front of him with another man. Hae-na fell silent upon hearing this. Meanwhile, Ji-ah, having discovered the location from the school principal, asked for Choi-yul's and his friends' help to go there. In the teacher's lounge, Hae-na noticed So-won's calendar, marked with the same date as the one at her home. She tried to ask So-won about it, and he smiled, suggesting they go on that date together. However, Hae-na said she already had plans with Bo-gum on that day and left, leaving So-won disappointed. Not long after, while Bo-gum was having a meal with Hae-na, he received a message from the school principal, stating that Ji-ah was heading to the mountain where she died in the past. At the same time, Hae-na received a call from Choi-yul, urging her to come to his house due to an emergency. However, this was all planned by Choi-yul under Ji-ah's instructions, who wanted to give So-won an opportunity to be with Hae-na. Meanwhile, up on the mountain, Ji-ah finally reached the spot of her past death, guided by her sixth sense. There, she revisited her memories from that time. On the other hand, So-won was overjoyed when Hae-na came to see him, and he tried his best to make her feel comfortable. Hae-na asked if she had been to So-won's house before because it felt familiar to her. She also mentioned that her emotions had been strange lately, shifting from joy to sadness and back, as if her heart disagreed with her desires. Hearing this, So-won couldn't hold back his feelings anymore and kissed Hae-na. This kiss triggered Hae-na's memories to return. However, fearing that the kiss might turn her into a dog, she hurriedly left So-won. But she found it strange because there was no change in her. When she told Yuna about it, Yuna was equally puzzled because, according to their family history, Hae-na should have turned into a dog. Their uncle, who was present, suggested that maybe the curse that had affected their family might not work if the person who kissed Hae-na was meant to be with her. Hae-na was confused by the situation, as she felt a connection with So-won in her heart, but in her memories, she remembered liking Bo-gum. The next day, Hae-na felt uncomfortable when she ran into So-won at school, so she tried to avoid him. Seeing this, So-won approached her and asked her not to avoid him because it hurt him. He promised not to force her to be close to him anymore and would wait until she could remember what was missing. Hae-na was puzzled by this and wondered what So-won meant. Meanwhile, at home, Hae-na's uncle accidentally opened a forgotten box belonging to Hae-na and found a photo of Hae-na, So-won, and Choi-yul on vacation together. This discovery puzzled him because Hae-na had no memory of So-won. Hae-na's uncle hurriedly went to the school to show the photo. However, at the school, he encountered the school principal, who realized his intentions to show the photo to Hae-na and inform her about So-won. The school principal, who was under Bo-gum, quickly took the photo brought by Hae-na's uncle. Using his ability, he transformed Hae-na's uncle's voice into that of a dog, making him unable to communicate what he had seen or about So-won to Hae-na because he couldn't speak. Fortunately, before the photo was taken, Hae-na's uncle managed to grab the school principal's name tag. Through gestures, he signaled Hae-na to visit the school principal since he had taken something he wanted to show her. Although Hae-na didn't understand, she went to the school principal's office, where she saw the photo of herself with So-won that had been taken by the school principal. While walking and thinking about what she had discovered, Hae-na briefly crossed paths with Bo-gum, which triggered a faint memory in her. Bo-gum was the one who had erased her memories, so Hae-na asked him once again why he had done that to her. Bo-gum replied that he did it because Hae-na had been a selfish sinner in the past. This statement made Hae-na realize even more that she and So-won had a connection from before. She decided to visit Bo-gum again to ask why he had been so cruel to both her and So-won and to express her belief that she had never done the things Bo-gum accused her of. Bo-gum then instructed Hae-na to come to the mountain, where she and So-won had made the mistake that had angered him. Meanwhile, Ji-ah, who had visited the mountain the day before and witnessed events from the past, met with So-won to convey that Hae-na's loss of memories about him was not the end, as something worse might happen. So-won was confused and still didn't understand why Bo-gum, the mountain deity, had done what he did to both him and Hae-na. Ji-ah explained that everything was related to her death in the past, which had connections to So-won and Hae-na from that time. She urged So-won to prevent Hae-na from going to the mountain with the other students, fearing that something bad might happen. Upon hearing Ji-ah's words, So-won rushed to meet Hae-na and tried to convince her not to go to the mountain with the other students. However, Hae-na apologized for her delayed recollection of So-won and promised to recover her lost memories by visiting the mountain as suggested by Bo-gum. So-won, somewhat relieved that Hae-na was starting to remember him, was concerned about the potential dangers on the mountain. But he couldn't stop Hae-na, who was determined to go. So he asked to accompany her and the other students. The next day, when Hae-na and So-won arrived on the mountain with the other students and reached a house where the villagers used to worship the mountain spirit, they were startled by a sight that made them scatter in all directions. They encountered a creature that wasn't a ghost but the school principal in disguise, who intentionally scattered Hae-na and the others. Hae-na found herself alone and tried to locate her fellow students but ended up spraining her ankle. Fortunately, So-won arrived shortly and tried to treat her injury kindly. However, their peaceful moment was short-lived as a pack of wild dogs suddenly appeared, hunting them down under Bo-gum's command. So-won, upon seeing the wild dogs, immediately grabbed Hae-na's hand and tried to escape. Meanwhile, Ji-ah, not far away, with her psychic instincts, sensed the presence of something evil nearby. She hurriedly made her way to the source of the malevolent aura, which turned out to be coming from Bo-gum. As Ji-ah approached Bo-gum in an attempt to persuade him to stop his harmful actions towards Hae-na and So-won, she suddenly became possessed by her past self. This surprised Bo-gum, and he remembered the happy moments he had shared with Ji-ah in the past. He now understood the truth about what had happened in the past. He had been wrong in thinking that Hae-na and So-won were responsible for Ji-ah's death. In reality, both of them had tried to protect Ji-ah from the royal forces. So-won had been imprisoned but was released as he knew he needed to go to Hae-na, who was Ji-ah's servant. Additionally, Hae-na was pregnant with So-won's child. The royal forces executed their plan and easily located Ji-ah. Coincidentally, Bo-gum was occupied with dealing with the royal forces elsewhere. So-won, realizing the situation, did his best to shield Ji-ah and Hae-na from execution. However, outnumbered and pushed to the edge of a cliff, a misunderstanding occurred. So-won, severely wounded, saw the royal forces trying to shoot Ji-ah on the cliff's edge. With his remaining strength, he managed to deflect the arrow aimed at Ji-ah. Yet, due to his earlier injuries, his sword slightly veered towards Ji-ah. Bo-gum witnessed this and interpreted it as So-won threatening Ji-ah with his sword. Ji-ah, witnessing So-won severely wounded and seeing Hae-na pregnant, decided to sacrifice herself by taking So-won's sword and leaping from the cliff. Bo-gum briefly saw this, reinforcing his belief that So-won had killed Ji-ah and that Hae-na had betrayed Ji-ah. However, now that Bo-gum had learned the truth from Ji-ah, he could only cry. Furthermore, he realized that Ji-ah had sacrificed herself to witness Hae-na experiencing happiness during her pregnancy. Bo-gum acknowledged his mistake and immediately called off the pack of dogs he had ordered to attack Hae-na and So-won. Shortly after, Hae-na's lost memories of So-won fully returned. Overwhelmed with long-suppressed longing, Hae-na immediately embraced and apologized to So-won. A year had passed and happiness finally embraced Hae-na. The long-standing family curse had vanished, bringing relief. Her bond with So-won had grown even stronger, though they still kept it a secret at school. Now Bo-gum was no longer a teacher of the school, and the school principal had retired. Hae-na was busy getting ready for the upcoming school festival. She also had a headache as So-won's birthday was approaching, and she wanted to give him a special gift but was unsure what to choose. Seeing her sister's dilemma, Yuna suggested taking So-won to their mother's restaurant. However, Hae-na worried that her mother might be too imposing and make So-won uncomfortable. Additionally, Yuna and Woo-taek had just received approval to get married. On the other hand, Hae-na's uncle found himself building a relationship with Che-ah. With his newfound wealth, thanks to some stocks he had invested in years ago that had appreciated, he became an attractive prospect for Che-ah, who appreciated his calm nature. However, Hae-na's uncle began speaking in a language that sounded like a dog's, which startled Che-ah, leading her to quickly leave. On the other hand, Hae-na was busy preparing for the school festival and searching for the perfect gift for her boyfriend. She faced another issue. A television network expressed interest in having So-won participate in a matchmaking show featuring eligible and wealthy contestants. Naturally, Hae-na tried to prevent this from happening. However, to her surprise, all the teachers, including her friend Song-yi, who was unaware of their relationship, supported So-won's participation in the matchmaking show on TV. Feeling insecure and unsure of what to do, Hae-na left the scene. So-won, seeing her depart, chased after her and held her hand to make a public statement that they were officially a couple. As it turned out, the teachers, including Song-yi, were already aware of their relationship and were playfully teasing Hae-na to make it official. This revelation made Hae-na feel relieved and happy, knowing that everyone she knew approved of her relationship with So-won, which motivated her to prepare for the upcoming school festival. During the festival, Hae-na and her fellow students put on a spectacular performance that left everyone in awe. Ji-ah, with her psychic instincts, sensed the presence of a fox, which turned out to be the school principal. She immediately chased after him to inquire about Bo-gum's whereabouts. Meanwhile, So-won, accompanied by Hae-na's uncle, also spots the school principal. He goes after him, hoping to persuade the school principal to restore her uncle's ability to speak. Before long, Hae-na's uncle regains his voice, and he seizes the opportunity to confess his feelings to Ji-ah. She is deeply impressed by his heartfelt declaration of love. On the other hand, with the school principal's assistance, Ji-ah finally locates Bo-gum, who now resides by the beach, just as he had promised Ji-ah in the past. Bo-gum is taken aback and overjoyed by Ji-ah's unexpected visit. They release lanterns together, just as they had done in the past, symbolizing the beginning of their romantic relationship. Meanwhile, Hae-na, still pondering the perfect gift for So-won, gets a surprise from him. So-won is no longer afraid of dogs and has even adopted a dog named Dako for them to care for together. This marks the beginning of their happily ever after in their love story, and so their tale comes to an end. Moral lesson from the story: misunderstandings and mistakes from the past can cloud our relationships and judgment. It's important to communicate, forgive, and give love a second chance, and treat your dog well. Perhaps your dog can find your soulmate.